Generational improvement is the basic promise of American life. In this country, you can do better than your parents did, and many have. The main driver of upward mobility in America is higher education. Get an education, we tell our children. Go to college and make something of yourself. For more than 100 years, that has been true. But is it still true? Is college still worth it? For some, the answer obviously is yes. Our physicians, engineers, research scientists are still the best in the world. For them, college is essential and well worth it. But what about the rest of us? How about your average sociology major or political science major at fill-in-the-blank state U? How about a Russian studies major at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, a path I know well? Well, that remains an open question. We're going to spend the next month trying to answer it. There are a lot of ways to assess the costs and benefits of college, its effect on students, the many ways it changes the society. We'll get to all of those in this series, which is every Wednesday night. But tonight we want to begin with the economics of college, the numbers. College is expensive. That's the first thing to know about it. Over the past 30 years, the cost of a four-year education at a public university has risen by 213%, a rate far faster than inflation. A lot of that cost is financed with debt. About 40 million Americans now have student loans. Outstanding student loan debt in this country amounts to about $1.4 trillion. That's equal to more than a third of the entire federal budget. And the numbers are rising fast. In 1993, for example, the average student loan holder owed about $9,400. Today, the average balance is more than $34,000. Studies show that most kids who take loans never bother to calculate their monthly payments when they apply for the loans. It's not surprising that the majority say they would not do it again. About half of loan holders worry they won't be able to pay off their loans over the course of their lifetimes. Well, some will and some won't, but lenders don't appear to make those decisions when they loan the money. They don't seem to care. Almost a third of students who sign up for student loans drop out before getting a degree, and that makes it much less likely they'll earn enough to pay back the money. Even if they do graduate, there aren't enough jobs to support them. More than 40% of young college graduates work in positions that do not require a college degree. Certain majors, of course, lead to better jobs and higher incomes, but lenders don't seem to take that into consideration either, especially the government. Over the school year 2015-2016, the federal government handed out more than $4 billion in loans to psychology majors, handed out another $3.5 billion to students majoring in visual and performing arts. Some of these students will go on to high-paying jobs, probably. Some will have no problem repaying their loans. But many, many others won't have that experience. Student debt is crushing an entire generation of Americans. Young people with student loans are far less likely to buy cars, buy homes, get married, have children than their parents' generation was. And their attitudes are very different as a result. When you see those polls showing that young people prefer socialism to capitalism, you're probably horrified. You should know that student loan debt is one of the big reasons why. It was also a major factor in Bernie Sanders' sudden rise to national celebrity. It's also a big factor in our country's drift toward populist economics. Our elites mostly don't notice any of this because, of course, it doesn't affect them. But student loan debt is making our politics far more radical. If you like capitalism, you ought to be very worried about student loan debt. So what are we getting in return for all of this? Well, you'd hope a well-educated population, but no. A 2003 study by the Department of Education, for example, gave a literacy test to 18,000 adults with college degrees. Fewer than a third were found to be proficient. That was a measure of a humanities education. At Harvard, a researcher took a close look at students studying the hard sciences. Among the findings, quote, students who receive honor grades in college-level physics courses frequently are unable to solve basic problems and questions encountered in a form slightly different from that in which they have been formally instructed and tested. In other words, when they got outside the classroom, they failed. Well, if you're going to send an entire generation deep into debt, that is not an adequate return on investment. But it's not really surprising when you consider how college students actually spend their time. It's been studied a lot. One survey found that the average full-time college student spends less than 3 hours a day on education-related activities of any kind. Students, meanwhile, spend almost 3 times as much time shopping, eating, and hanging around as they did going to class or doing homework. It's a nice life if you can get it, but in the end, it's a very costly vacation for all of us. Is it worth it?